Welcome back. I'm Cali Surfer, and this is CTF Walkthroughs. Today's walkthrough will be of the box titled Chill Hack from TryHackMe. It's rated easy for difficulty, but I found it to be a little more in the medium difficulty range. In this box, we will be gaining an initial foothold on a Linux box, and then we'll do some lateral movement around the users, and eventually we'll find a way to root the box and grab our final root flag. So without further ado, let's get into it. Go ahead and load up our target IP, and we've got a few tabs open, one for VPN, one for our notes, and we'll make a scratch tab here for multi-purposes. Let's go ahead and check. Open ports and services with a quick scan of our IP. And I'll load up Zap here. We'll be using Zap instead of Burp Suite today. Zap is the freeware version, open source version of Burp. Basically, it does the same thing, but it's totally free, so there's no throttling of requests like there is on Burp if you're using the free version. And we'll go over to our web page here, running on port 80. And we'll be using Zap today to brute force directories to discover what kind of directories are on this website. So to do this, I'll use the fuzz feature here, and we're attacking the main website. So I'll add a new fuzz location. And I'm looking for a medium-sized list to do my fuzzing today. I might have to go into sec lists to grab one that I know works for sure. So we've got it in the user share word lists, sec lists folder. We'll use this one that has medium in the title. And let's go ahead and run this. So we'll add it. And then click OK, start our fuzzer, and you'll see the requests start coming through. And we're looking for any anomalies here in the results. It could be that we get a code 200, or it might be that we get a response that is larger or smaller than most of the other responses, or we might get something like a 301. So we'll see what pops out. I see a few things are being reflected. That might be something to look into as well. We can also sort our results by the tabs. Okay, so let's go ahead and sort it by the tabs here and see what kind of results we're getting. We're only 2% in though, so there could be more findings down the road. But we see here already we've got an images, CSS, JS fonts. Those are all 301 codes. Probably they're an indication of something. And we tested our secret directory from a previous attempt. I know that that's in there. We'll probably see it pop up on our Zap results pretty soon. There it is. It popped up as reflected. And on this page, we see what looks to be a remote code execution box here. We'll just try a few codes. And looks like when we get the hacker man who's happily typing, then they give us the result. But when we see the hacker detected warning sign, that means that it's been filtered out. So we're hitting some key commands that are being blocked. So how can we get around this? Well, one way to get around it is by adding a backslash in between letters from the command. So we can do that here and see if we can spawn a reverse shell onto this web server. And from there, we'll do some lateral movement around the users until we can figure out how to get our root access to the box. So we can try the cat command here. And that's interesting. It says, "Are you a hacker?" but we still have the typing man. So we might need to check the source for the page to see the output from cat. Okay, so I think we've got this going. Let's go ahead and create a Revshell payload. And we'll spin up a Python server as well to serve the payload. And the way we're doing this is with command injection. So we're saving our command as a file, and then we'll issue a command to grab it and run it on the web server, which will spawn a reverse shell. So I'm carefully entering in my IP to make sure it's my VPN's callback IP. And there's our payload. We'll just save that in our notes. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, CTF Walkthroughs, for full-length walkthroughs and also for short videos which introduce different concepts and tools in ethical hacking. All right, I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye. So we'll save this as a shell.sh. Now we've got that as a file. Let's start our server. We're using standard bash, a notation here for the Revshell. No encoding. If we find that this doesn't work, we can experiment with some different encoding options. We'll use the command curl and then pipe that to bin bash to run it as a script. Okay, and we'll add in the backslash there to evade the filter. And we just ran it. Let's check. Actually, we didn't run it. Let's type it all in, run it, and then we'll flip over back to our shells tab that has that netcat listener waiting to receive the reverse shell. All right. Oh yeah, we need to spin up that server again. We've got our shell script right there. There we go. We see the hit, the 200, and we got our Revshell. We are www-data. Next, we'll want to stabilize our shell because you see that it doesn't say our username and the host name. Strange error there from Zap. We'll just ignore that. And here's a quick way with a one-liner to stabilize the shell. It's not a full shell yet. We don't have the command history with the up and down buttons. And I don't think we can click around yet, but it's good enough to do the rest of this. We'll just type carefully. All right, so now we're in with a semi-stable shell. And next, we're going to want to upload Linpeas and run it so we can check for Privesc pathways. We can check our index.php now, and we see there's a black list of commands that are filtered out. Three users on the machine. Sudo L reveals an interesting sudo permissions. We can run something as appar, the user appar, the helpline .script there. So we'll take notes on this, and let's see what that script is. So we're running this with sudo as a different user, not our www-data, but as the user named appar. And generally, when doing CTFs, if you see a special permission to run a file or a script as a different user, it's a good clue that there may be a way to spawn a new reverse shell as that user. Okay, so this is the script. And we can see that it takes in a message variable. And it sends it to dev null, but it's got to go somewhere. So maybe it goes straight to remote code execution. Let's test it and see if we can spawn a new Revshell with the bin bash command. And I still haven't upgraded my Vim to allow cutting and pasting. I'll do that next time. Let's just type it in for now. Sudo tac u for user appar, and then home appar dot helpline dot sh for script. Doesn't matter what person we are. Let's enter in bin bash. And awesome. So we've moved laterally over to appar. Let's stabilize the shell again so we can see who we are. It's just more comforting to have the full prompt on the terminal. Okay, so we are appar, and again, we're looking for privilege escalation or lateral movement pathways. We do have our local.txt, the user flag, so let's cut and paste that into our notes for later. As far as I can tell, this step of the box just required some playing around with the script and testing to figure it out. Because there's no response on the message. It makes it feel like nothing's happening, but it's actually a blind remote code execution. So we were able to spawn a shell as appar. And now I'm just looking at the script again. There's nothing there that shows where that message variable goes. It just goes to the to greater than dev null. So that's like sending it to a null byte. Nothing gets outputted. Let's wget Linpeas over to this box and run it so we can see what kind of Privesc pathways there are, and chmod x that for adding execute privileges, and then we'll run it with the /linpeas.sh command. And we're looking primarily here in the output for red text, and especially red text that's highlighted with a yellow background. It automatically does that, so it's easier to scan it with the eye and see what jumps out at us as potentially interesting for privilege escalation. There's a pseudo version there. Probably there's a way to exploit that to gain root. Let's see if there's any even lower hanging fruit sticking out at us here. There's an authorized key there, root at Ubuntu, but we don't have the private key. So we probably can't use that one. It's always good to check for web services running also. There may be some web services that are set up to only be accessible from the internal network and not from the external network. And that's exactly what we find here. Did you see that? Yeah, the 9001 there. So it is sending something to 9001 through the local host. So now what we want to do is set up port forwarding so that we can access that website through our Kali Linux box and continue to do pen testing activities. We could use Chisel to do this, but let's try the old-fashioned way and create a new SSH Keypair, and then we'll create that on our Kali box, and then we'll upload the Pubkey, the public key, to the authorized keys file on the target machine. Then we can SSH with extra arguments indicating a port forward of that 9001 port. And here, I shouldn't be doing this on appar. Let's switch over to our Kali box. And I'll just do a quick Google search on the syntax for this command. I can't recall which flags I need to add to make it work. We'll just try it without any extra flags. SSH-keygen, and where to save it. And now we'll enter in our target path, home Kali Surfer. Oh, we still don't have tab completion. and we'll drop it in the ChillHack walkthrough folder. Failed. Okay, I forgot the TryHackMe THM folder in my full path. Let's try this one more time. Delete all that nonsense. Let's go ahead with our home, Kali Surfer, THM, ChillHack, and then ChillHack walkthrough. Okay, so it looks like that worked. Now we have to get, wait a minute. It's not there. Looks like we actually need to include the file name, ID_RSA or whatever else we want to call it. And then it'll have two keys that it generates. One is for the attacker machine or the legit machine logging in, and the other, the public key, is for the web server or the host, whatever you're trying to get into. These keys are designed to match each other, so it's really important that we create it on the machine that we're logging in from, and you can see that my username and host name are actually at the end of the key there. Kali Surfer at 3 hipsters. So next we want to use our server again and grab the public key. We can use curl and then redirect the output into the authorized keys file on AppR's home directory in the .ssh folder. So we'll curl it from our HTTP simple Python HTTP server running on port 8000. And we want to make sure we get the public key, so that's .pub. And the curl command works, so now let's redirect it into authorized _ keys. And we can cat that out just to make sure, to verify that it copied correctly into the file. And it did. So now we can SSH in and set up the port forwarding on port 9001. Okay, so we're going to go from our port 9001 through the local host to the port 9001 on the target machine. We need the TAC L for that port forwarding. Now we do TAC I to indicate the file and pathway for our private key, ID_RSA, and then make sure we update the IP to the correct target IP. And once we type yes, it should not ask us for the password since we're using the key. And our port is now being forwarded, so we can go on our Kali box to our browser and load up our local host on port 9001. And we'll see what kind of landing page awaits us. All right, let's go ahead now and browse to that website and make sure we can actually access it. Sweet, so we're brought to another portal. Now, we could try inputting some of the credentials that we've already discovered, at least the usernames, and we could brute force the password. But before we try to do any kind of brute forcing, let's first check for low-hanging fruit. Let's see if there's any way to bypass this login with a SQLi command or SQL injection. We can use Zap again for this. So with the Zap Firefox browser, or you could use Foxy Proxy on your regular browser, we're going to set up a fuzzing with a word list that'll have common SQLi commands. So we'll go back into our sec lists. And there's a fuzzing there. Let's look in there, SQLi, and we'll just choose one of these to try it. Let's use the generic, and we'll see if we get any ways to bypass the login. Just hit add, and then we'll start up our fuzzer, and we'll watch the results pour down the screen. And I saw a few things with a reflected state, but the size is roughly the same there. Let's see. They're all short payloads, which is kind of weird. But then we have this other category. They're not reflected, but they're a smaller size on the response. So that's a pretty good indication that we have an exception to the rule. So we can choose any of those 573s and type it in for our username, and then type anything in the password, and we'll see if we can bypass this login. So I'll just grab the shortest one and type it in. Okay, so we're typing it in here. Let's write anything there in the password, and sweet. So we bypassed that login. Next, we have a little hint here. Look in the dark, you'll find your answer. So let's check the source code behind this website and see if anything is there. That would be one place that could be called the dark, because it's not showing until you look there. We'll also save this image and check for any data hidden inside of the image file. We can use the tool steghide to check and then extract the data if there is any from the picture. So we'll just save it in our ChillHack walkthrough folder. Check that source on the HTML, and looks like that's a zap.js file here. That's probably not going to have any secrets. Okay, so let's go to our next step, and we'll make a steghide tab there, and let's check with steghide to see if there is in fact data hidden inside of the picture. So tac extract, and then tac sf for the target file name, and it looks like there is a backup.zip, so we're on the right track. Let's try to use 7-zip to extract files from backup.zip. And it asks for a password, which we could use some of the passwords we've already discovered. But let's instead use zip2john, a utility that will convert the hash from this password protected zip into a John the Ripper friendly hash. And then we can just John that with RockU to brute force our answer. And I did this previously, so it's saved in some kind of database on John in our Kali box. So what we have to do is just take away the word list argument and add a tac show to show us the password that was previously cracked. And tried putting the tac show on the end, but it does not work. just looking at the syntax, and I see we have a bunch of fails in a row, so we have to remove that word list command now and add the tac show. And there it is. So pass1word is our password. We don't know what it's for. Let's try some of the other users on the box. So we can use an su command and then switch over to a different user and see if this password will work. And let's just catch up on our notes a little bit here so we can remember our pathway towards root. We did zip to John to prep the hash for John the Ripper. And then we used 7-zip to attempt to unzip. Yeah, so that's right. We haven't gotten into our backup.zip file yet. I got ahead of myself. So let's get in there with our password now, pass1word. And now we have a source code.php. So we can cat that source code and check it out. And just scanning through, we see password equals post, if base64 encoding equals, and then we get a string. It looks like a password encoded in base64. So let's copy that. And we can use a one-liner to decrypt this from base64 to plain text. So we'll do, we'll use the echo command, then the string in quotes, and then we'll use a pipe and base64 E for extract. Pipe and tac D for decrypt. My bad. There's our decrypted password. I don't know my password. Let's just jot that down. Okay. We're trying to switch over to root and see if we can get in there. It doesn't work. Try it again just to be sure. It does not work. So we'll have to use this on the other users in the box. And we have 3 names there. We are appr. Let's try Anurod. And we can do su Anurod. And we'll paste that in. Oh, yeah, so it worked. We are Anurod now. Let's check sudo tac-l. And we have the same permissions on the appr, so that won't help us. That'll just move us back to appr. See what else we have here. We've already seen this source code PHP. Here's something. So we're a member of the Docker group. So that probably means we have sudo privs on the Docker bin. And we can move over to GTFOBins, a really awesome resource for ethical hackers with tons of ways to abuse privileges on binaries. So we can just search for Docker. And check in the full info on the Docker bin. Looks like we can execute something. Yeah, we can execute it as root. I use the privilege abuse cheat code here from GTFOBins for file write, but actually I want to be using the one for sudo down at the bottom of the left side of the screen here. So we can run that with, let's grab our password and drop that in, and says we may not run it as root on Ubuntu. So let's just take off the sudo and see if that happens to work here for us. I guess we don't need the sudo because the root owns this file, this binary file, and we have permissions to run it, to execute it. So in effect, we're already running it as sudo, right? So the one-liner works. We got our root flag. We can cat out proof.txt, and then we'll grab the, let's just see that text start again. There it is, well done. And our flag is above, right there. Root-flag, grab that. Let's add it to our notes. Okay. So we have both flags. Let's go ahead and drop them into our answer boxes here. And we should see the confetti coming down, showing that we have pwned this box. We've completely rooted it, and we're done. But my page on the left is malfunctioning, so I may need to reload the web page before it accepts my flags. All right, I'll grab that user flag again. Click submit, and nothing happens. This is one of those many times in ethical hacking when something should work, but the machine just isn't doing it for whatever reason. So a quick refresh should solve the problem here. Let's try it again. Still no dice. Let's refresh the page and try it again. We'll drop them in. And we got it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this CTF walkthrough. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more full-length and short videos about ethical hacking. I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.